Indian cricket sucks. Not for the reasons that are immediately apparent. Is it the team? No, they're one of the best in the world. Is it the player system? No, their development system is churning out amazing players. So why exactly does Indian cricket suck? Well, in a few notable ways, from the spectator experience to how India are exercising their power over the cricketing world, that's where the suckage begins. Let's get into it. Stay tuned. Greetings everybody, Brian Singh here from Brian's Table, and I'm here to talk about one of my favorite topics, cricket. Maybe not my usual fare, but this does have a lot of implications for travelers who are traveling to India who have an interest in the sport. But first off, thanks for watching, and if you haven't subscribed as yet, please do so now. I greatly appreciate it. Why does Indian cricket suck? I want to go over some of my experiences of going to and my attempts to attend cricket in India, and a few observations I have over 50 years of being a student of the sport. First off, let me give you some context. For the record, I am a lifelong fan, and with my West Indian heritage, I grew up in an era prior to the West Indies dominating the sport for almost 2 decades. I know what it's like to have a team of world beaters coming from humble beginnings as your home team and right in your backyard. So I can relate to the ascendancy of India. I love how much the Indian team has become the world beaters that they have. Under Mahendra Dhoni, Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, the team has emerged as the top team in the world. This took a lot of hard work and dedication and long-term commitment. I can't begin to emphasize long-term commitment. Let's go back to 1987. They established the MRF Pace Foundation. And look at the bowlers that they're churning out now. You got Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Shami, just two of the finest fast bowlers that ever existed. And on top of that, we have the IPL, which has become the ultimate in player development. There is no doubt that the IPL is the big show in cricket and that the Indian team is one of the best in the world. I cannot fault anything that India has done on the field. They have absolutely earned it. So why am I saying that Indian cricket sucks? Well, it has a lot to do with things off the field. Let me break down my experiences in India. First off, me trying to buy a ticket for a test match in Dharamsala. When I was in India last year, England were playing. They had a four-match series. They won the first one. India came back, won the next two, and the series decider was in Dharamsala. I was very excited about that. So I felt I had a chance to see the Indian Test team play in India. Very excited about that. So I planned on seeing, just to go and see a day's play, and so I went online to see how to pick up a ticket in India. All that was left were full match packages, so you had to buy all days. So I thought, why not? I saw that Paytm Insider was connected to Ticketmaster, so I was quite willing to take my chances because Ticketmaster is an international brand with a high level of trust internationally. So went through the transaction, and then I got prompted to be verified by Visa. So I had to open up my Canadian number, so that cost me $15 Canadian to do that. And lo and behold, a text came back from my credit card company saying that Ticketmaster were trying to charge 2,647 Canadian dollars instead of 2,647 Indian rupees to my credit card. So that didn't work out at the time. So I felt defeated trying to buy my ticket online because, again, I really did a lot of research trying to figure this thing out. So I said the alternative was to go to the ground because I knew that there were tickets available, but they didn't sell any tickets there, and that they were only accepting tickets that were bought online. So I gave up on my dream of seeing Test cricket in India, as that was the last Test match being played while I was visiting. Strangely enough, where I was staying in Dharamsala, a lot of the cricket journalists, Indian cricket journalists, were staying there. And I told them of my story and the tremendous difficulty I had as a foreigner to buy cricket tickets online in India. To my surprise, they all knew of the problem, and one said that it is nearly impossible to do so for any foreigner. And I was thinking, if they knew, why don't they tell people about this? It's just simple sense, right? And one of them mentioned it would have been better if I booked my ticket with a tour agency outside of India. And another even mentioned it would have been better if I had a chat with him before the day's play because he could have organized a ticket for me. Not exactly how I would think about getting a ticket. All right, but now I knew, work the journalist line, okay? All right, but it really did shock me that they all knew of the problem and none of them write about it. Like I go to Cricket Info Daily, nobody talks about these problems. Anyhow, but I want to put a placeholder for more on the discussions later with another journalist, okay? So that was my experience in Dharamsala. I didn't get to see any cricket. So I said, I'm going to take a chance and go and see an IPL game because I'm in India during the IPL season, and with all the West Indian players there, I got to go and see them. Okay, so no test. Let's give the IPL a go. All right. I was planning to be in Kolkata, coincidentally, on March 23rd, and saw that the Knight Riders were playing. And given I had a chance to see two of my favorite West Indian players, Sunil Narine and Andre Russell, these are two stars of franchise cricket globally, and you rarely see them in the Caribbean. I felt this was my chance to have that perfect IPL experience. So I did a bit of research and I figured out that the IPL was just a little bit easier than getting tickets than a test match, and that I could get them off Book My Show. And lo and behold, I got this thing set up. I still needed to open up my number to get verified by Visa for it. So still another $15 out of my pocket. All right. Given the occasion, I treated myself and my sisters to 3 tickets of 5,000 rupees each. That's about $60 each ticket in the upper tier of the clubhouse. I figure if I'm paying that kind of money, I'm getting the best view possible. So I thought, now let's get to picking up my ticket. This was another nightmare. A physical ticket is required at the ground. So I get this email and it says you have a few options to pick up your tickets. And because I'm arriving in the afternoon before the game, 2 of those opportunities were already gone, and the only chance I had was to pick it up at the ground. This is part of the challenge of doing business in India. There's a low level of trust, and the system sometimes is fraught with corruption. So they tend to be a little bit more conservative in terms of what you have to produce to go into a game. All right, so let's work with that. So I had pretty much 2 hours before game time to go and pick up the tickets. I had to fight against the traffic outside of the stadium, and this spot where I had to pick it up was so obscure. It was behind the local cricket club, off to the side of the parking lot, and it was in this hut, nondescript hut. And the guy who had the ticket, I had to reach into the booth after providing all my ID to get these tickets. And the hole was literally like that, right? He can see me, I could just see his face like that. That's how I had to get the ticket, right? So that took about an hour, and then I had 1 hour to get back to the hotel, pick up my sisters, and then go to the game. So ticket in hand, all right? There we go. And I didn't have time to look at the other side. And there's a lot of stuff there. And for 59-year-old eyes at the time, prior to my surgery, I had some serious fine print, okay? But one thing that was very obvious is that there's a lot of things you just can't take into the game, all right? So here I was, 1 hour before game time, and my battery low, and I need to get into the game, so I carried my power bank with me. And as I regrouped, stressed as I was, got my sisters, and we headed to the game. I had a power bank. Power banks are not allowed. And one thing that you should know about Eden Gardens, it's owned by the Indian Army, the Eastern Forces Act. And there is a high military presence at the game. Security is very strict. All right, so we need to respect how Indians organize their sport, okay? So as we went in, they stopped us and they said, you can't carry in the power bank. But in going through all our stuff, they also took out my sister's lipsticks. And on this thing here, there is nothing about lipstick in here. Again, I don't know how these things get made up, but one of the things I found in a lot of dealing with security is that they make up a lot of rules all the time in India, all right? So we have to deal with these flexible rules, all right? And I will let you know that the table or the area that they said that they would be keeping our items, when we returned to them after the game, they were gone. Everything was gone. So anything about security and trusting them at the cricket ground was completely gone, because anything that you as a foreigner had no idea that you can and can't bring, Anything that you couldn't bring was taken away and never to be seen again. So I lost a power bank in the process. Largely my fault, but at the same point, again, the process led me to that point. I'm just going to say that. And I have no regrets losing it. I'm kind of a little pissed off about it, but what can I do? Because again, it's in the written on the ticket there. But my sisters losing the lipstick, that was really petty. But I could also understand that these the women there who were checking out my sister's bags, they're not as affluent as my sisters, so any opportunity they can get to get some fine lipstick, they're going to take. You get used to that in India, all right? Anyhow. And they also are very good, as I mentioned in previous videos, even the tuk-tuks, even they rip off their local citizens. So that was a shitty experience, all right? But let's get on to the seat. So I paid $60 US for each seat, and I did that to guarantee that we were going to get a good view. And I said I like to be square. I like to be square onto the pitch so I could watch the turn of the ball. Okay, that may not mean anything to some of you, but that's my vibe. Okay. All right. And where our seats were, there was a post right in front of it. We had a blocked view. Why this ticket was prioritized in the expensive section when there were empty seats nearby, I have no idea. Ticketmaster's algorithm most probably puts you behind the worst possible place to keep more open seats for other people. I don't know. Okay. So as the game started, we slid down a few seats, and over time we moved down to better seats because the stand was relatively empty. So can't really complain about that. But let's get into the experience itself, okay? Anytime I got up to stretch, there was some soldier or security making a beeline for me, telling me to sit down. There was a group of English fans, and the security forces were there waving their baton at them, telling them to sit down all the time. Look, this was quite uncomfortable, all right? But I also get that this is part of the spectator experience in India. Security forces are everywhere, from the subway to the tourism attractions to the cricket ground. So there's certain things you're willing to band on. All right, let's get into the food. You think you're in India and there's lots of tasty street food, all right? And you think that there'd be some good food in Eden Gardens. Nope. It was only poor quality pizza and momos and maybe one other thing. And the water came in plastic bags, and they weren't comfortable to drink from, right? So as a foreigner, adapting to local conditions wasn't great, all right? So the overall spectator experience was terrible, all right? Look, I've gone to matches in the Caribbean, England, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. And the spectator experience in India was by far the worst I've ever experienced, from ticketing to watching the game in the stands. And this is largely due to the culture of India and their problems with controlling fans. There's no alcohol available, no wide choices in food. I guarantee if you go to a game in the Caribbean, you're gonna have a great time. It is the complete opposite of India. While I could have seen more games, as I was there for 4 more weeks, I didn't. I had such a vile taste of being a spectator in India, I had no desire to see another game in the country ever. So that was my overall spectator experience. But let's return to another discussion I had with a journalist in Dharamsala. With this guy, I got on the topic of India's leadership in the sport. And I mentioned that India, with the IPL, have now annexed the best time for playing international cricket in the Caribbean, typically from February to May. The journalist responds to me, "We made your players rich." Look, hard to argue with that, all right? And the players will respond to the market, but put up to the might of India's 1.5 million population, the 7 million or so in the English-speaking Caribbean don't stand a chance. So yes, the economic might of the IPL has altered the West Indies' home season dramatically. So much so that most international games are now played during the rainy or hurricane season. I'm not sure that Indian fans are too concerned about what they are doing to the sport elsewhere, as long as the West Indian stars keep showing up for their franchise and are committed to playing for their franchise over their international side. But this conversation also made me realize that India's domination of the sport is largely transactional and swatting their economic clout around. And speaking of franchises, IPL owners have increasingly taken bigger stakes in IPL leagues around the world. And they're bringing their draconian spectator rules with them. I'm not sure how good that is for the game if all that we do is view the sport from an Indian perspective. Let's also touch on the new IPL rule for international players who withdraw from the season to play for their team or personal reasons. While I was there, Sunil Gavaskar, a legend in his own right, called for the banning of such players. Only 3 months later, the IPL ratified a 2-year ban on such players, thus annexing players and preventing them from representing their own country. It's quite something. I have grown used to my West Indies team being depleted by the best players playing franchise cricket around the world under the tutelage of the IPL franchise owners. Very few other sides face it, but our players are rich. So it goes. All right. But I also want to touch on something else that has transpired since I was there. There was a T20 World Cup in the Caribbean, and it was blatantly obvious that India had a choice on what times they played. All of their games started at 10 a.m. in the morning, and this was to coincide with prime time in India. So they could watch all of their games from 8 p.m. onward in India, while the rest of the schedule operated around the whims and fancies of the Indian team, maybe to ensure the favorable result where India in the end won the trophy. But that's not the only isolated incident. Let's round it off with the ICC Champions Trophy. India have refused to play Pakistan in Pakistan since the Mumbai terrorist attacks of 2000. Look, this is understandable. There's a lot of concerns about the Indian cricket team playing in India, right? But their resistance and calling the shots netted them an undeniable advantage of only having to play in one venue in Dubai, while every other team had to travel thousands of miles to play their quota of games. The international cricket community were not happy about the situation and were very vociferous accordingly. India has over 1.5 billion people. It's a universe unto itself, and they don't need to concern themselves with the rest of the world. It's a truth, and it's showing. Such events that I have outlined have led many leaders in the sport to question India's continued willingness to bend rules to influence the outcomes of games played by their senior team. This does not bode well for the future of the sport if India continues down this path. One guy I would encourage you to follow, if you haven't done so already, is Jared Kimber. He has a lot to say about this, and is very articulate, and his views reflect mine completely. Not to say that my views hold more weight than his. He's much more respected than I am, but I should say my views reflect his. But I'm older than him. So instead of bitching about this, I'd like to propose a solution. I think cricket could adopt a franchise model similar to that of Major League Baseball in the US. And these franchises can be located around the world in line with the current ICC membership. For example, India should have at least 3 to 4 teams. And there should be 3 teams in North America, United States, Canada, and the West Indies. And quotas can be set for local players, very much like the IPL, while teams can be rounded out via a draft. But players can be from all of the ICC playing countries. So India's blockade of using Pakistani players in the IPL, that would be gone. That means the Pakistani players are free to play their trade around the world under such a franchise model. In doing so, this would result in 2 things. 1, you'd have players like Rashid Khan playing Test cricket without having to grant Test status to Afghanistan, a country that is incapable of hosting a major international team because of safety concerns. Further, with players like Jimmy Anderson, who still have a few years to give, he could have continued playing cricket in a weaker franchise until retirement. Then you have cases where you have all the A teams that are playing now, where some of those players are actually Test level already, but they can't make it onto their senior team. They may have a place in another franchise. It all takes a contract. I think something akin to this will work and will be a natural progression of what's already happening. For instance, look at what's going on in the IPL and the franchises buying up other franchises around the world, and it will lead to India maintaining the power in this. However, it will result in more competitive game, with weaker teams able to bring in players from top playing countries who cannot make their own Test teams and give them opportunity. More franchise-based teams mean more opportunities for the best players. So, to wrap up, the Indian cricket team itself is amazing. The sport on the field is top-notch. It is the emergent culture of the sport in India that sucks. And now the rest of the world is carefully watching as we navigate this uncomfortable period where India, rightly or wrongly, exercises its well-earned power in the sport. Now, cricket fans, it's time to let me know what you think. What should cricket look like as India continues to flex its power over the sport? Is there a franchise model, or do we continue with international countries being the highest level of professional sport that can be played in the game? Curious to hear what you have to say. All right, folks, thanks again for watching. Greatly appreciate the time you spent with me here. Hit like if you enjoyed this video, and go out there, chase a win.